Hello world, this is Shruti Pandey, and today I have with me the king of meme, is how I call him. Finally on the podcast, here we have with us Sanjeev. Hi Sanjeev, thank you so much for giving us your time today. How have you been?
Hi, Shruti. Thank you for that kind introductions. It felt nice, but also felt okay. That's a huge thing to live up to. But thank you for that.
I think you already are living up to that, are you not? Like you already are making all of us really very proud, right, with your
I'm glad.
memes and relatable themes that you talk about. So it's really something which I look forward to, when I open my LinkedIn and I'm like, okay, let me see if I get something new from you. So
Thank you.
so I want to ask you a couple of things today. Shall we get
hmm
into that? I really want to understand a little bit about your journey, a little bit
hmm
about your meme business, a little bit about your product manager or product owner journey. Like, you wear so many hats, so I want to talk about a couple of things that Sanjeev does, not just the memes, but also the many things that he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so firstly, I want to understand, how did this Supermeme.ai happen for you?
All right. So yeah, before I get into that, a little bit of brief professional journey. So I finished, I started working in 2013. I started as a support engineer, and then I moved into a pre-sales role, and then I moved into a product marketing role, and now I'm a product manager. It's my quick 10-year professional journey. So I've kind of hopped different roles. I've always been bored of what I was doing, so hence looking for something else. So while that was happening, the pandemic hit in 2020, and I started. I always used to create memes, even when I was in product marketing, I used to do presentations, and my presentations had memes, and that was one of the things that stood out from other presentations. So I've always kind of adopted memes. And when the pandemic started, I started making my own memes. I started using humor a lot more in my content. And then towards early 2020, 2022, actually this year, so I came across, I met he's from Hyderabad. So he's a freelance, he's an NLP expert. He's a freelancer. And we met through LinkedIn Creators Program.
Sure.
So we started connecting. And then he was working on an AI meme generator. And parallelly, I was working on a no code meme database. So that's what I was doing. So my goal was to build something to help non meme creators find meme templates. Like, when you search for meme templates, if you don't know the actual name of the template, you can't find it. So I was trying to solve that problem, and we came across each other and found that, we are building something similar, and we could kind of complement each other's skills. So we got together, and Ramshi knew Nico, who's our other co-founder, and we brought him on as a full stack app developer. So this is the team that is working on Supermeme.ai, completely remote. We've never met each other. We have one WhatsApp group where we coordinate, and we have like one Zoom call every week where that's when we do this live. Otherwise, everything is in our WhatsApp group, and that's how we coordinate. So yeah, that's the super meme journey.
Dude, that is the craziest story I've ever heard. Like, you guys just met, you haven't met ever, you guys are all remote. It's just three of you driving the whole gamut of it. Like, wow, if only this was, or this is the way how companies can just form and work, it would be so awesome. Seriously.
Yeah, we were quite surprised because I've never worked in a fully remote environment until the pandemic, right? And I've obviously never built like a product for from a business standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I was very surprised, and it's all in retrospective that we're surprised, because when we started, we had no other choice. Ramsey is in Hyderabad, Nico was in Netherlands. There was no way that we could meet. So WhatsApp was our only way, and we don't even have a Slack. We don't even have like a project management setup. Nothing. It's like on WhatsApp group, we just like post messages, get things done, and yeah.
First of all, you guys, all the three of you deserve a big round of applause for that. And I
Thank you.
also understand, like, when you mentioned that you were parallelly working on something. So, did you,
Mm-hmm.
while I've seen your profile and I see you come from
Mm-hmm.
that support journey to pre-sales, and I
Mm-hmm.
even saw that you and I were in a similar company at some point, or the same
Okay.
company at one point of time. But I wanted to
Okay.
understand, like, was this entrepreneurial bug always in you? Like, you wanted to do something? Was there something in hindsight, or whichever side which you had in mind, or? did it just happen like one of the pandemic things?
I think I was always a creator. Like that much I know in hindsight, that I was like, even ever since, even when I was a kid, and even when, like, during my college time or during like my early career, I was always creating something. So that drove me. But the entrepreneurial journey was not something that I intended to. But then, like, once you get exposed to like the whole SaaS world and the product management world, you're kind of wired to think like that. So
Right.
automatically, you're wired to think about monetization. You're wired to think about target audience. You're wired to think about positioning and messaging. So it wasn't a new or a hard journey. Just that I wasn't looking for that. So what I was creating was for a cohort-based course that I took on no-code tools. So it's kind of a project for that course. And I was like, okay, what do I know? I know memes. Let me try to do something in memes. So there's a very last minute project for that course.
Oh,
I was like, I had a presentation in like 4 hours, and I was like, okay, I need to put something together quickly. And I did this, and then I shared it. And that's when Ramsey discovered, and I also discovered it. So for me, it was not about making money until I spoke to Ramsey, who had a vision. And he obviously knew NLP, so he kind of knew how to apply the whole NLP concepts into meme creation. I was bringing the end user angle, like, because I'm a meme creator, I kind of use memes, like,
right.
for my own personal brand. So this was very good for us to work together. And we brought Nico, who's an expert in, like, building modern apps. So it kind of worked, like, fit perfectly together.
Makes absolute sense. So I want to understand, while you are doing all this course, understanding the no code, low code aspect, and suddenly you bump into these amazing gentlemen and create something. But I mean, parallelly on the same journey, you are also working at another company as their product guy. So, and I have had friends, and I still do, which are in the area of product. They could be the product owner, product manager, or whatever, and they sometimes, I'm not sure if they exaggerate, but they don't have a life out of that one thing. So I want to understand, how are you managing this juggling act really with two massive things on your plate? How is that going on for you?
There are two answers to this. So one from a personal angle and one from a company angle. So the personal angle is that I've always been the person to get bored, which means it is almost a necessity for me to do multiple things so that I can stay motivated. Like it's always been like that. Like, for example, during the pandemic, I used to create the videos that I'm posting on LinkedIn right now was an outlet. I needed to do something else. And before that, for example, when I was a product consultant, my job was getting on calls, giving demos. But then on the side, I was writing blogs and, like, giving conference presentations.
Yeah.
So I was always in a position where I was doing multiple things, because what happens with me is, if something doesn't go well in one area, I can, like, go try something else. And if, let's say, something goes well, I get motivated, and, like, that shows in my job, which is what is happening here as well. And there's a lot of kind of learning from both journeys that I can apply everywhere else. Like in the product journey that I'm going through in Superops, I apply it in Supermeme, and kind of the things that I see and learn in Supermeme, I applied in Superops. So I don't see a hard boundary between the different things that I do, even though obviously they're all very different things in terms of content, product, and, like, writing and videos and all that. But for me, all of them are a way for me to express myself. And at the end of the day, all of them comes from me. So, like, I cannot have a hard boundary to say that, this is my work. So this, I will behave differently here, or I'll think differently here. So I don't see it as a juggling multiple things. I see it as a big part of, like, like a mesh of something. So that's the personal side of it. Obviously, there is a professional angle, right? When you're working full time for a company, there are certain things that you need to do, certain things that you can't do. But I've been fortunate enough to work with people and bosses who encourage me to do these things. So especially, like, when it comes to the videos, when it comes to different products, they acknowledge the learning that I get from it. And as long as I make sure that I do my prime responsibility here, no one's gonna ask me, like, what else are you doing? I think that's not in my control. So that way I'm fortunate enough to be in a place that is very encouraging of these things. So if you don't have support of your immediate work environment, I don't think this is very easy. So that way I'm fortunate.
No, absolutely. And I would like to second you on that, because it is really being fortunate. I mean, given the pandemic time where people I'm pretty sure you would have read all the articles where they mentioned, right? Like people are working at multiple projects or what was
Yeah.
moonlighting and moon
Yes.
studying and all sorts of terms coming up. And
Yes.
I mean, if you don't work for a company which trusts you enough that, okay, he or she,
Yes.
wherever they are coming to office or not, are giving their 100, 200, whatever percent, I mean, you can't really go about even thinking of attempting something like this. So kudos, first of all, to
Absolutely.
your company. And I think this is a similarity between the two of us. Whenever I've seen your post on LinkedIn as well, that you enjoy the juggling act. It's not like it's
Yes.
a burden for you. So
Yeah. Not at all.
correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, people think that you learn ownership or wearing multiple hats when you get into startups. I've worked for, banks, MNCs, and startups, but I think that thing is a innate quality or a feature in you yourself. And if you don't have that already, you don't even think of getting into a startup, is how I look at it. Like you already were wearing multiple hats, or you already, like, I'm talking about my journey also, right? I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to get you into the controversiality of the subject, but seriously, like, taking a very simple example of just myself, I think we should be happy or capable or whatever you might call it enough to be okay. I enjoy wearing the multiple hats, and I enjoy taking the ownership and learning. Otherwise, we can't get into the startup world, right? Like, do you think that is a very important thing, getting into this hustle culture?
I mean, the first thing that I would like to acknowledge is the part about the juggling being an innate quality, right? Like that is not something that you would learn at a startup. I mean, you would definitely polish those skills, but then if you didn't have it in yourself to begin with, then it becomes very hard.
Right.
And again, so for me, because I don't know any other side, I don't have a comparison. Like for example, I don't know what it feels like to not work on multiple things because I've never been in that situation. I've always either I've had things or I've found things, like multiple things to work on. That's always been the case. Like, and not everything is necessarily tech, right? For example, there was a time I used to, like, I'm a huge Bollywood fan, like a Tamil movies fan. So it's something that, like, grew up with. So I used to host quizzes on my Instagram. I used to, like, like take out song interludes and play them and get. So I used to always do something. And like even now, like, we hosted an in-person quiz when after the pandemic. So for me, it's always been about doing like multiple things, and you need to, like, if you start thinking of it as juggling multiple things, then I think that's when you start losing the fun of it, right? So yeah, I think it's and from a startup standpoint, yes, absolutely, you need to wear multiple hats. That's just the nature of the game. But again, even there, I believe I'm a staunch generalist. I believe that you need to learn different things. You need to wear multiple hats. But I also understand there are certain kinds of people who probably don't want to do that. Like, probably there are people who are happy being specialists, and I think we should let them be. So irrespective of a startup or a big company, if your natural strength is being a generalist, you should let them explore. You should kind of create. So one of my pet peeves is that companies don't create roles broad enough for generalists. So companies are, like, skewed towards specialists. So that's, I've always had a problem with it. Like, I've always fought with my managers that, I want to do more, but then the role is restrictive. But on the other end of the spectrum, you shouldn't force specialists to be generalists when they're in a startup just because they're in a startup. Some people are just happy doing one part of it really well, and we need both these kind of people for any kind of environment or system to thrive. So we should just let people kind of be in their natural environment.
It's not like I second or echo every sentiment that my guests say, but there is so much similarity. I think I'm saying this for the first time. We need to talk after this
Oh
also.
yeah.
For sure, because
For
like
sure.
I mean, this unnecessary debate of generalist and specialist. I mean, why can't we just let people be? I mean, if they are
Yeah.
specialists, it's their forte and their USP. But given the entire creator economy, you might say, or
Mhm.
affiliate marketing, or I mean, all kinds of I mean, kids these days call it the brand and being an image and marketing, etc., etc. I think the more as a technologist, as a developer, whatever I might be, if I don't understand, I have to be like a jack of all trades, is how I see.
Mhm.
And I feel that personally people like yourself or me or some else, some other people that I know, we are in a long term game where we don't even understand that we are already playing it, but this is going to happen
Yeah,
very soon.
yeah.
Then suddenly, how people are now into the brand making game, suddenly they would realize, oh, okay, I need to be, because I was fortunate enough that one of my companies, they started this term called as T-shaped developer, that you
Yeah.
to be across. And that's also kind of a development that started coming into existence after the full
Hmm.
stack thing. So I mean, yes, it's amazing to be a specialist sticking on to one thing, but the more we are flexible in doing things is what's going to take us ahead, is how I look
Yeah,
at it.
and a lot of it is also very like you have to evolve with times. Like for example, like with the pandemic, the people always had access to creator tools, but then now they had time. So a lot of people who, for example, you had a lot of developers talk like do reels talking about coding and talking about like resources. You had a lot of people who cook and do so across all like disciplines. You had people creating, which means now creating has become a lowest common denominator. Which means like that is a skill that has become something that's a must have, which was the case probably 5 years ago because you didn't have the tools and it was not something that is easy to do, but now it is. So you
Right,
have to that whole the idea of that bare minimum that you need to know will
right.
keep evolving, and you have to keep evolving with that. So that's kind of what I feel about these. So you have to keep up with that.
Always, always. I want to understand one more thing from you, because you are such a industry brainiac, and like I called you the king of news. I want to understand, where do you see this meme economy really going, and how do you think this is going to help in totality? Like, what do you see the future of it as? What started as just a comedy thing or just entertainment,
Hmm.
where do you see all of this leading up to, and how big or
Okay.
small will it become really?
Okay. So, see, at its fundamental core, memes are just a way to communicate an idea. So that's how I see them, right? They're
Right.
a very effective way to do that. Like you had, for example, a lot of comics used to be really popular. They're still popular, obviously. Like comic strips, like Dilbert used to be very popular with the business audience. So it's just a way to communicate an idea. Like instead of you going and saying something directly, you say it through a comic. So I see memes as no different. The real powerful factor of memes, which is not quite so in any other medium, is the virality factor. Like
Right.
you could have a meme that is being shared a million times. Like I've seen memes on Twitter with like 1 million retweets, and like it's crazy. That is something is that's very powerful and it's very unique to memes. Now, from a personal angle, obviously you have like the whole pop culture references. You have people sharing memes that will always go viral. Now, and also this is also a genesis of why we started Supermeme.ai, right? Now, if you translate that into a business sense, now brands are constantly looking for ways to stand out, and marketers are constantly looking for a way to cut through the noise. And with the amount of creation tools access that's available to people, everyone's creating and everyone's posting content.
Right.
So I see memes as a way for marketers to stand out and communicate their idea. So that's how I see it. And not from a promotional angle. So it's not like, use memes and you try to promote your product as like Superman or Batman. Like, I see people doing that also and I feel bad inside. But
Yeah.
memes is a great way to talk about your problem. Let's say you probably, if you're a business, you have a product or service, that's also a problem.
Mhm.
And memes can be used to talk about your problem to your target audience and just attract them towards you. And the selling will happen. Like you don't have to use memes to sell. So
Right.
I see brands using memes to communicate ideas, or they should be, and attracting people towards them and cut through the noise. And this is the genesis of why we started Supermeme.ai, because we realized
Hmm.
meme creation is it's not a very common skill. It's not something that anyone can just pick up and do, and it's completely okay. Like you don't have to be a specialist. Like for example, like the day I really felt bad is when I was talking to a social media manager and they're expected to create memes, and that's not their strength. They're a great copywriter, they understand social media algorithms, but they cannot create memes, but that's the expectation. So
Hmm.
with a tool like Supermeme.ai, when we're talking about it, see, there are people who are expected to create memes, but that's not their skill, but it's becoming like table stakes. So we will enable them to do it. Like we'll give them a tool, we'll help them do it. Just like what Copy.ai does to writers. Like if you're expected to write, but you can't churn out so much content in a week, Copy.ai will help you. It will help you generate those blog points, it will help you unblock your mind in terms of creativity to do all these things. We will use AI to help people create memes and unblock them. So that is the whole idea. from a meme business standpoint, I feel, I mean, you can see it happening already, right? Like reels and memes have been adopted by businesses, like, and even B2B businesses. So B2 consumer businesses are usually early to adopt these kind of, like, any strong way to communicate ideas. So that's already happening. But B2B businesses have also started doing it because they realize that traditional ways of communicating ideas is just not working anymore. People are, and there's barely any engagement on your brand page. So I feel like it's getting there, and at some point I'm sure that it will also, like, go down. There will be something else to replace memes, but right now I feel like we are still on the rise. Like, the best days of memes is yet to come.
No, I mean you make total sense. Everything comes like a curvature is how I look at it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
the rise, and let's enjoy till that is happening. And
yeah, yeah. And, like, people like us can make some money while while it's on the rise.
not us, you. You are doing that, and it's
I was
honest.
really surprised.
What?
Sorry, I just, like, have this one thing. So I was really surprised, not surprised, but I was happy to see that there are meme agencies, like, meme marketing agencies. Their prime job was to consult on meme creation, and they were thriving. Like, they are, like, it's proper full time business, and, like, they had people working full time. So that's a signal. That is a very strong signal that what, people will pay. Like, you just have to create a good product, and that creates value. People will pay.
Absolutely. You reminded me of a guy who had texted me saying, "Can you be my meme partner?" And I was like, "What the heck is a meme
Okay.
partner?" And I want to know from you because, like you rightly mentioned, pandemic gave us the time to show
Mm-hmm.
off the creativity or whatever that might
Mm-hmm.
be, right? And it was probably just about, making all our lives a little happier. When I also started, I had never in my life thought that I would create a meme sometime, and I'm also a Bollywood or a movie buff, right? So I would take some snippets here and there and just post it. And some people would message me on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, this is a meme," and I was like, "What the hell is that?" This is
Me.
video meme. So I was like, "Oh, okay." And I think that was one of my suggestions for you also, right? For
Mm.
things like you can do something about that. And do you think that every time that we post a meme, that has more engagement compared to all the gyan and intelligent posts that we post? Because that I see that a lot with me. How do you see it for yourself?
Okay, so this is again was a epiphany for me. I'll talk through that journey. So I used to be that. I used to kind of 3 years back. I used to post a lot of gyan because that's what I saw everyone else doing. So I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. So I posted that, and it's not like they are useless content. It still had good content. But then I realized the problem. I realized I wasn't standing out from the crowd. I was getting some engagement.
Okay.
So things changed when I started, doing the videos. In fact, a quick story there is when I was doing the funny videos that I post now. I set up the camera, I set up all these things to record a serious video, a Gyanish video. That's how it started.
Okay.
But I recorded that. It was like a 10-minute video on some note taking and productivity and, like, the usual thing. I watched it, I replayed it back, and I realized no one's gonna watch it. Like, it's super boring. I couldn't watch it. No one's gonna watch it. So I needed to, and I already had the camera set up. I had the mic set up. I was like, let me just record something. And that's when I had gotten exposed to a stand-up comedian in New York called Alexis Gay. So she does a lot of these Silicon Valley startup type of, like, very similar to. She's kind of the person that I got this idea from. I just did, like, one video on product management, like what product managers say in meetings, and I was really surprised and grateful to see that kind of get a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. And I realized, like, the way that you stand out is by doing something different, and people will accept. Like, humor could be one thing. Like, maybe you could do something else, but you cannot do what everyone else is doing. So now, even if I have an idea for a serious post, my brain is automatically trying to convert that into a meme or convert that into a video, because I realize I'm kind of against, like, in between I made a video making fun of, like, the Gyanis post on LinkedIn. So I can't now go back and post, like, seriously on LinkedIn ever. So I've lost that opportunity. So now I'm forced to convert everything into humor. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think what I've realized is that people, like, need, like, this is someone told me on a podcast. So you need to either entertain, you need to educate, or you need to engage. Like, do these things. The problem with most of the posts right now is that they do neither. They just, like, project. Like, even if you educate, you can afford to be serious. Like, I'm not saying that everything should be humor. I am comfortable with humor, but not everyone needs to be. But you have to add value either through entertainment, education, or engagement. Otherwise, like, you're going to be left out in the crowd. So yeah, that's kind of how I say it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, this has been one hell of a ride talking to you, understanding your journey, and you have been so transparent about sharing this entire journey, especially the super meme part. I want to close this off, but I want to ask you
Mhm.
one final thing. What is it with you and the word super? Like both the companies, why are they both super? Like someday will I see your name as Super Sanjeev? Like what is? Sorry, that's a bad joke. That's a bad joke. But like, what is it with super?
It is just a weird coincidence. So because I didn't pick both the names. So SuperOps was the company that I joined, and Ramsey had already bought the domain supermeme.ai. So I had no part to play in both. It's just a coincidence.
Okay, so you won't become like those superstitious people, right? If you will do a third thing and you will be like, I'll name it something with super only because super works. Again, a bad joke, but
I haven't thought of it, but yeah, you put that idea in me now. So it's brewing.
now it's churning. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. I had an amazing ball and riot with you, Sanjeev. Thank you so much. Do you have any parting thoughts before we close up this podcast with you?
Thank you so much, Shruti. Yeah, I had an amazing time as well. No, I think I just want to be because I've spent like last few weeks being on different podcasts. I just want to say thank you and for I because I don't get an opportunity to talk about this a lot. Like because again, yes, we have a product and it's got like a few thousand signups, but it's not big enough for us to have a platform to share our journey and do things. So I'm very grateful for people like you who invite us on conversations and just give us an opportunity to record our thoughts, right? Like even if nothing, I know that I have a video link that I can send it to people, and it's recorded, it's out there, it's going to stay for a long time, right? So I just want to say thank you to you and a lot of other podcast hosts who invite people like us and just give us an opportunity to share our story. So thank you for
That's the least. I think that's the least I can do for amazing
that.
students like you. Please do keep inspiring us all, and I'm so glad we finally did it. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shruti.
Thank you.